You would think that after 6 years of exposure to German, not much is going to surprise me anymore, right? Wrong. It's just like how even though you've known your parents your whole life, you still find out something new about them every day. I'm just full of analogies, aren't I? Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Elysse and on this channel I talk everything language, world, culture. I am currently in rural Guatemala, so naturally I thought, hey, let's make a video about German. So, like I said at the beginning of the video, I've been learning German for around 6 years, right? More or less since I was 15, I've had classes or exposure to German in some form. But that doesn't mean that I've been constantly studying it for 6 years straight. If I had, I think I would be completely fluent right now. But I am not. So here and there's still a lot of things that confuse me, and there's a lot of things that I still struggle to grasp.
Firmly grasp it! That'll do it.
And I'm not ashamed to admit it because that's a very natural thing. Even in like my native language, even in English, I'm always grasping for stuff that's on the tip of my tongue, or like, what's the difference between continuously and continually? Things like that. However, in German there are a lot of basic things that I cannot seem to wrap my head around. It drives me crazy, and I'm hoping that by confessing them to a giant YouTube audience, I will have some of the burden lifted off of my shoulders and my chest. Rooster, please ignore. So first up on the agenda, we need to talk about the word if in German. There are 3 different words that I know of. Every time I have to say a sentence that uses one of these words, it's like a 3-second delay process because I'm trying to figure out which one to use. And it's not like one of them is more common than the others, it's just that they all have different purposes that are like very specific. So first we got wenn, which is kind of in my mind the most general if. So you can just say this in a sentence, it's not like a question or anything like that. So like, if you want to come, wenn du kommen willst. Simple enough, right? But then there's this little word called ob, which is kind of like a linking if that makes sense. So I don't know if she has enough time. Ich weiß nicht, ob sie genug Zeit hat. So ob is always to be linking kind of like 2 ideas, something like that. And the thing about ob that makes it a little bit more tricky is that it always has to come after a comma. That's another thing about German that still confuses me, is how often they use commas. All the time. Way more than in English, and I feel like I'm abusing it. I'm like a punctuation fanatic in English at least, so when I come to German and I'm using a comma like 4 different times in a sentence, I'm like, this doesn't, this don't feel right. This does not feel right. And the last if we have to talk about is falls, which for me kind of directly translates to in case. Like for example, my phone is in German, and when I come on Twitter after I haven't been on in a while, it'll have like a little section of tweets that I missed when I wasn't online, and it says falls du es verpasst hast, so like in case you missed it. Even though I see this one the least, I feel like it's the easiest for me to remember because Fall in German literally means case, so like COVID-Fälle, COVID cases, so it's literally in case. You feel me? So moving on, we have to talk about the word when now. So there are 3 different words for when in German as well. We're seeing a trend, are we not? And the first one, ironically enough, is wenn. But I thought you just said that wenn means if. I know. It is equally confusing for me. But wenn can also mean when. So like, immer wenn ich ausgehe, bringe ich Wasser mit. Whenever I go out, I bring water. This is not true. I probably should. So note that this wenn is not to be used in a question. If you want to ask a question, like, when are you going to go out? You use wann. So you say, wann wirst du ausgehen? So this wann is specifically for a question. You can't use this in a sentence, just like a regular statement. That's easy enough to remember, right? But then there's this word als. And als, interestingly enough, is only to be used in the past. So like, I was 14 when I got my first camera. Ich war 14, als ich meine erste Kamera bekam. So what happens to me all the time is that when I'm talking in the past, I want to use wenn. I don't really confuse wann that much because it's very clearly in my mind just for questions, but wenn and als, I'm always like, I always just want to say wenn. I completely forget als exists whenever I'm talking in the past, and I freaking hate it. Now moving on, I know you did not think I forgot. Who could forget? Vermissen and verpassen, which in English both mean to miss. I am very, very used to that in English we use one word for a lot of different things. We are kind of a multi-purpose people when it comes to our language. So verpassen is like to miss something. So like if you miss a deadline or a test or the bus or something, like you're too late and the time has passed. But vermissen is it's like the emotional longing. So if you miss a person, a place, your pet, something like that. I always just want to say vermissen for everything because it just sounds right in my brain. Like I told my tutor last time we talked, I told her that ich habe die Deadline vermisst. But I don't emotionally long for deadlines. I don't like deadlines. So that didn't make any sense. But luckily I will say that this is the mistake that I always immediately correct because I don't know, there's just something in my brain that's like, hey wait, that sounds wrong. And speaking of confusing fair prefix verbs, we have verschwinden and verschwinden. And if I didn't put them on the screen, you would have no idea what I'm talking about because they sound exactly the same. So I understand that there is a slight difference in the pronunciation. We have verschwenden and verschwinden. One of them means to waste and one of them means to disappear. But to me, at least in my dialect of English, we do not really differentiate between those two sounds. Like take pen and pen, for example. They sound the same to me, so why would I be able to differentiate verschwinden and verschwinden? So an example of verschwinden with an E, we can't waste any time. Wir können keine Zeit verschwenden. Example of verschwinden with an I. Meine Hoffnung ist verschwunden. My hope has disappeared, which is true. However, something that makes this easy to differentiate, at least in written text, is that verschwinden with an I, to disappear, most of the time it's appearing in the present perfect, so it's saying something has already disappeared, so it's ist verschwunden, so it changes, like the participle goes to something that is easily, distinguishable. But gosh, what a headache, I don't know what it is with fair verbs, like verbs with the prefix fair, they make my head spin, no idea why. So it's not just me, right, because these are basic mistakes that I make all the time still while speaking, and I don't know if that makes me human or that makes me stupid. Either way, it is what humbles me. It's a good reminder that, hey Elysse, even though you've come all this way, don't get too cocky because you're not all that. And that's a good reminder to have, I think. Humility is a good quality. Anyways, I'm sure that you guys have some of these in common with me. Please make me feel like I'm not crazy. If you would like to comment any other confusing German things that I might have forgotten, feel free. Here's my social media if you would like to follow me on Twitter and Instagram. It's just Elysse de Vega everywhere. Saludos de Guatemala. Everybody take care of yourselves and I will see you so soon. Bye.